Okay, well, let's go ahead and we can get started with our Sunday series for April 11th. Thank you all for making the time to be here. I enjoy these workshops that we have twice a month very much because it's a chance to get to talk to people that I don't usually get to talk to or see them on Zoom, and to do some training that normally I wouldn't be able to, just because of distance and of course because of the pandemic. But even once the pandemic settles down, I intend to keep doing these if people are interested, because it's a nice way to just come together and keep our community strong and to connect. So we're going to start our first class today. Excuse me, Kanjin Cederman sensei, and he's a shodan, but don't let that fool you. He's been training for many, many years. He just has not been in a position to get formal rank in Aikido. So not that rank is the end all to be all, it's not. But he's the assistant instructor at Jisokai Aikido Dojo in Seattle, and he is the head priest of the Seattle Choezan Enkyoji Nichiren Buddhist Temple. He became a Buddhist monk at the age of 18, later becoming a priest of the Nichiren tradition in Japan. He is active in the growth and education of Aikido in the US and abroad, and he focuses on spiritual health and wellness. He's going to lead us in both some Aikido instruction and some meditation practice. So without any further ado, onegaishimasu.
Hi, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Today I wanted to, if I can share something with other people about why I love Aikido and have kept with it since my childhood, is that because it's actually in itself a very complete, transformative tradition. And that includes a lot of aspects of health, because Ueshiba Sensei always looked at it both for the spiritual health as well as the physical health of one's life and body, so that we can live out the length of our life properly, to be healthy, to be mobile, to be flexible, so that we can be able to help and assist others, but also to live our life wholeheartedly. Because as we know, without the use of the body, life diminishes, in that we cannot do what we love to do, or we cannot be of service to help others or participate with others. So therefore, health and wellness is an extremely important part. And actually, Ueshiba Sensei, from my studies, there were so many people that influenced him, that were many famous teachers, because of course he had his own teachers outside, of course, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. That means also teachers within spirituality, as well as even within health. At that time of Japan, there were many different health systems that were bringing back and focusing specifically on the body itself and how to keep the body through all the stages of life flexible. So therefore, with Aikido, the idea that I really love is that even I'm maybe much younger than everyone, but as we get older, we have the pains in our body and also discomfort and some challenges. But the concept of Aikido is to nourish and protect the body, not to destroy the body, as compared to some traditions. But even in the harder traditions like Jiu-Jitsu and that, massage and medicine was an integral part. And you may hear lots of stories about people massaging Ueshiba Sensei's back and shoulders and feet. And that was actually a tradition that it's passed on through a lot of practices, where people would look at, oh, well, that's just servitude. But actually what it was teaching them is how to care for the body. And actually in most dojos, in a lot of old style dojos, that is a part of the practice. So at the end of the class, the student would, of course, as appreciation, learn how to properly give massage to the teacher, which is not a regular massage, but a restorative massage. And that's what Ueshiba Sensei, I believe, envisioned Aikido to be, a restorative health practice. That's why he wished to have it in every village, in every school, to be able to bring forth this idea of Aiki. And so today what I wanted to share with you is just some basic points that come actually all the spiritual conditions, because Aikido is a modern art, but it has its roots in many ancient traditions. So one of the most interesting traditions is that all of them originate, especially with Buddhism and all the different arts of martial arts that we see coming through India, China, Japan, etc., originate actually in a purpose of yogic practice. So today we're going to do some meditation, but most people think of just sitting meditation practice. Just make sure if I don't freeze, sorry, we're having some internet issues here. But in meditation, many people nowadays fragment the different traditions, but actually Aikido is a very holistic practice if we understand it correctly. So before we do meditation, there's an idea of preparatory practice. And more specifically, in the older tradition, even before, as you know, Zen Buddhism in Japan, there is a teaching called the Makashikan, which is actually a very big compilation of ancient teachings, which also include yoga, medicine, lifestyle, food, etc. That in order to practice correctly medicine or even any art, we have to have the correct functioning of the body and the correct balance. A lot of people think of go into Aikido incorrectly and think of it as a good workout, but actually in exercising, in practicing, we're working on many different aspects, such as dealing with our own personal issues or challenges that we want to grow beyond, understanding compassion or harmony with others, and then of course dealing and connecting with a higher, like a spiritual realm, whatever that may be to you. And so one of the interesting aspects, when most people sit for meditation, they do no preparation. Same with practicing Aikido. Some people do warm-ups. But if you look at the actual teachers in Japan, and actually in any of the arts, they all have a very important regimen in their daily life. In yoga, they call it dinacharya, which is kind of a kind of morning practice, a kind of regulatory practice. And the most important thing that they spoke of was keeping balance. So consistency is very important in anything that we study. If we become inconsistent, that will cause an imbalance. So before we actually sit for meditation, I'd like to share with you some basic stretches, which if you're familiar with yoga, they would be considered asana. Asana were preparatory practices for meditation. Also, we can see those particular asanas and practices in Aikido warm-ups, in the really traditional Aikido warm-ups, which you may not be aware of. And also in those warm-ups, you'll also find out lots of connection to Eastern medicine, Chinese medicine, etc. Even I want to share with everyone how we wear the belt, how we wear the hakama. There's a specific reason why those things were created the way that they were, that nothing happened because of happenstance, or that they just created something to look nice. Actually, in Eastern culture, everything is based on the consideration of one's body, and also these ancient teachings such as Chinese medicine, etc. So even the hakama were designed for certain purposes. So I'd like to share that with you. But one of the purpose of wearing the obi or belt is to the hips. So most people sometimes put it above the hips, but actually on the hips, and it squeezes the hips. This is a very important part of the practice. So in one of the teachings I do, which is mountain training, which is called Shugendo, we have to go on very long mountain practices. And one of the teachings that they share is that because we have 3 tanden, here and here. Here, most people know about the tanden, or the 1 point, right? About 1.5 inch below the belly button. But they don't understand how to grow or use that. That's what these are devices for. So it's not just by happenstance that we wear a belt. So actually on the hips, we compress the hips, and you can try this sometime. If you're walking, just walking without any fear. But if you tighten this point, like if I was to push on your hips this way as you're walking, even up the mountain, you feel a very lightness. So this is a way of kind of focusing on this part of the body, which is, there are 3 tendons, which we could talk about later, but to focus on this part of the body, which is actually in correlation with, they say in Japanese, zange, which is actually in a way kind of atonement. So dealing with one's personal tribulations or troubles. So first, we'll do some asana. So please stand up. Everyone knows this as a shizen, which is kind of relaxation. But this is a particular asana, which is just a relaxation point. What I would like you to do, and a lot again, also there are many parts of our body that even though you do Aikido, you're not utilizing them. So most people don't utilize their muscles here, or in their hips, or in their backs, their glutes, everything. They don't utilize them. Their Aikido is very one level. But as we see, Aikido is constantly moving between the two. So what we do, put your feet shoulder width apart, grasp your fingers as such. And what I want you to do, now this is complicated because most people have very weak ankles, especially even in Aikido and that. Other arts can check, train them more, but we have to use this idea. So this even for meditation to make ourselves flexible. So as we breathe in, turn your hands up. And as you stretch up, go up on your toes and breathe. 1, 2, 3, exhale. And as you exhale, put your body and your feet together. So one body motion. So as I go down, I'm slowly lowering my heels. That by the time I drop my hands, my heels are just touching the ground. So that is a very powerful practice because most people are very weak in these joints, and then weakness in the joints allow illness to come in. So therefore, we should strengthen these points. And also, if we're practitioners of an art, we need those points properly lubricated and flexible. So again, let's bring in, breathing in, up, 1, 2, 3, exhale. Through your mouth, exhale. Slowly controlled, bringing your heels slowly down. Okay. Then the next part, what I want you to do is place your hands here on your, just on your bone right here. Not on your kidneys. Don't put it on your kidneys, but just on your glute here, your bum. So, and then what I'm going to do is you're going to breathe in and you're going to look at your belly button. So exhale 1, hold it for 3 breaths. Breathe in 3 times, full breaths through your nose. Looking at your belly button. Okay, breathe in, relax, let your hands drop, go forward. And what you're going to do is go forward and drop forward. Exhale. And here you're going to hold for 3 breaths. As we breathe in, we're going to let our spine go up by each vertebrae. So as we breathe in, we stand up, keeping your hips where they are. Slowly leaving your head to last. Shoulders, head. Okay, then the next one. Most people don't know with the 1 point, there are 3 points, and the perineum, which is just below the sexual organ and the anus, is a very important point in acupuncture. And so for this point, we kind of do, this is what they do in sumo. So they step out kind of into this kind of horse stance with your shoulders up, very strong. People feel very weak here, I'm sure. Then you're going to take your hands, and just like the sumo wrestler, you're going to go forward, down, and you're going to clench your anus for 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. Come up, feet together. Now relax these parts of your body, especially these parts here and your tanen. You can place your hand on your stomach and your chest, and we're going to do 5 breaths using your hara. Very good. So many people don't know when we sit in seiza, for instance, right? So this, many people just consider this to be seiza, right? So as we sit in seiza, but this is actually called the Vajra Asana. Vajra is a very specific implement used in Buddhism for purification. So actually this position is not just to look beautiful or to look noble, but the idea is that this is a particular position for breathing. So once again, I'd like you to put your hands on your chest and under your tummy, which is your iten, your 1 point. And you're going to relax. You're not going to move your chest. You're just going to use your abdominal muscles and diaphragm to breathe. And let us do that 5 times. Okay, relax, drop your hands. Now let us prepare ourselves for meditation. Actually, there is a long sequence of practices with the asana. So again, another time I can teach you. But for this, we can sit Burmese style. If you don't have a meditation practice, that means you take your right foot, put it under your buttocks, because that we don't sit all the way on the cushion. We sit up on the cushion so that we're a little bit forward. But make sure you don't push out your belly, that you have equal, attention to your back and your front. Then you just slide in your left foot. This is called the raku, or relaxed, or Burmese style of meditation. Most importantly is to have your shoulders below your ears, your chin in a little bit, and you can place your hands however you like. This is called the cosmic mudra, right? But many people don't understand why they use it. Again, I'm trying to open your eyes to the idea that there's much more underneath that we can't see. So as we look at this mudra, which is called Hokai Join, which is used in many meditation, the idea of touching the thumbs is because the lung meridian is in the thumbs. So that is the reason for this. So this is not just to look pretty or to look noble, but has a functionality. And then what we want to do is we want to bring it close. And that's why we wear this belt on our hips. Because if we have our hips and we tighten them, they contract. But also in the center there is actually where the 1 point is in the center of our body. So we bring that close to the body, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little more preparation. So in order to find this kind of 1 point or balance, we're going to rock our body front and back like a pendulum until it kind of finds its middle. Then we're going to go left to right. Okay, very good. Then what we'll do is that I want you to close your eyes, and we're going to do 3 purifying breaths. What the purifying breaths are, and visualization is very important in practice, in that we are feeling to remove all the negative ki, all the negative energy from all the corners of our body with our exhalation. And then as we inhale through our nose. So we can exhale through our mouth and inhale through our nose. And we'll do this 3 times. This should be 3 big cleansing breaths. So let us begin. Breathe in, exhale. Again, breathe in, exhale. Breathe in, exhale. Now what we're going to do is close our eyes gently, just enough to keep the light out. So therefore, you don't have to use lots of force to close your eyes. The purpose is just to keep the light out. Feel and can maintain that posture that we found in that balancing. If you need to move a little bit left and right and forward to keep finding that center of your body, you can do that. And what we're going to do at this time is, it states in the sutras to imagine yourself as a stone anchor. So that means a stone anchor doesn't really have to think about much. It just holds the boat in its place. So it holds something from moving. And it's a very big kind of, you can imagine these ancient Greek anchors that are just huge blocks of stone. And so therefore we're going to sit as in that way, with that visualization for our body. And the breathing that we're going to do is simply, we're going to now breathe through our nose. But as we're breathing through our nose, this style of meditation is called the shikan. So as we exhale through our nose, we feel as if we are concentrating on the breath as it exhales. And then as we inhale, we simply observe the coolness and freshness on the tip of our nose as the air comes into our body. This is the beginner part of shikan meditation. So with that, we want to keep our breath, this is very important, that it is not too loud, not too quiet, not too hard, not too soft, but find your own natural position of breathing. And for that, we will then focus on that breathing by simply observing. Shikan means to stop and see. So for this, let us begin. Please begin meditation. Please observe and watch your breath. If you're making too much sound, feel what you need to relax in your body in order to soften the sound. If you feel your breath is too hard or too soft, please be aware and adjust accordingly to find the natural, sustainable, balanced breath. Now, as I ring the bell, very importantly that you release your concentration. So you understand when you're concentrating, and when you release it. Then what I would like you to do is take your hands together, rub them, generating heat, keeping your eyes closed. Place them over your eyes, opening your eyes into your hands gently, and then slowly allowing it to come back to the light. All right, so this meditation is a short meditation, and also the asana at the beginning were a shortened version, so there's a longer example. But one thing I'd like to share with everyone is that even doing a good thing, the most important is to have consistency. So many people cause imbalance within their life, right? And I with the idea of harmony, because we don't understand how even good actions or bad actions affect us. So in a particular practice, consistency is very important. That's why in actual Budo, in actual study of anything, priorities and choices come into play. So that's why when we practice Aikido, if we wish to receive the true benefit, we should consistently practice. Now, what I would say to people is that consistency is even better than more. So more is but not necessarily better. And it's important to work up. So some people here were interested to begin Aikido. Most important is to dedicate yourself to go to one class consistently as much as possible, and to extend it over a longer period. But many people, especially in the modern mindset, are into something, so they do it just for a short while. Then they burn out and they become interested in something else. This is the definition of imbalance. So therefore, even with stretching or meditation, even if you can sit and do meditation for 5 minutes. So usually when we begin a practice, we want to do, because usually to have an interesting deep meditation takes about more normal person 20 minutes minimum. But most people will start at 20 minutes, but actually that's inappropriate. You can start at 5 minutes, and then over it consistently, you will see a difference, because that's ultimately what will inspire you to keep practicing, is by experiencing even small changes. So therefore, even if you can find 5 to 10 minutes in the morning to practice quietly sitting meditation based on your faith or your background, or of course communing with the deity or spirit, however you define it as such, is very important, because this will set our day. That is why Aikido I love to practice in the morning and evening, because this is my way of purification. So one of the last things I wanted to share, so as we move, the belt itself, there's a saying in Japan that when people are something important to do, they call it Mawashiwashimeru. So Mawashi, as everyone has seen the sumo, they wear those large belts. That is Mawashi. Ne? And then Shimeru is to tighten. So that is the purpose, the kind of tradition of this, to have it on your hips, that by tightening it, we focus. Now, it's not, if you've tightened your obi over your above your hips, it's very uncomfortable and can actually damage some internal parts of your body. So that's why the hips, the purpose is to condense this part, to put the mind here. Okay, so I want to share a little bit something about the hakama, which people may not be aware of. So if you look at just regular hakama, it has this hard back, right? And even wearing hakama, people wear it incorrectly. There's a health reason to wear hakama the way it is. So in Chinese medicine, there are 2 points. This is your belly button, which is a shen kyu, where that is where the shen, or the umbilical cord from your mother, comes from. So that is one way that qi enters our body. The other is called the ming men, which is right behind it, exactly opposite between the second and third vertebrae. It's a little impression there. That is called the spiritual gate. So this is just as important as this. And actually, in most martial arts practice, this has to be protected, very much so, in the lumbar region here. Because actually, these are seen as points of life because inside in our body is tanden or tantien, which tan is a kind of pill. So it's supposed to be round, like a little pill. And in some of the sutras, they'll call it a cinnabar field. Cinnabar is actually a part of mercury. So it's actually in the modern world we know as poison, but in the ancient world it's seen as medicine. The inside is a little ball that if you've just studied Qigong, etc., they understand. And then the perineum at the bottom makes a kind of upside down triangle. And in the center of that is your 1 point. So everybody talks about the 1 point, etc. But the reason the hakama are made the way that they are, so as we wear the hakama, as we have our belt quickly over our 1 point, it's very important that we put it over the hips. Now, again, Ueshiba says they had a very good understanding of the meridian. So this has to do, of course, with Eastern medicine. Also of the 3 tantien, which we talked about. But as we tie the hakama, the front part here is actually over our 1 point, where our belt is as we feel. So we shimite, tighten. Now there shouldn't be any discomfort in your, how do you say, above your hip, which of course could cause a, how do you say, like damage if you incorrectly tie it. So the point is to put focus here, and of course to compress the hips, as I said before. But as we wear the back part, if you look, what's happening is the point, the Ming Men, which is a life point, this is a protecting here. But also, it is making us as a training device, because people don't know, but in ancient manuals in Japan, this is considered a point of health for a long life. So we may consider ourselves to be, how do you say, health people, but actually in the ancient world, people were much more, how do you say, caring about health, because of course life was much shorter. But this particular point here in the Ming Men and the front, the Shen, Qi, so the Kui, they have a, how do you say, and if anyone's been to any power seminars, they know you have to put a little bit of pressure. So your energy is going both out and back. So many people in Aikido techniques are pushing forward with their belly, thinking that that's ki. But ki is actually being extended both ways here. And also the kidneys in Chinese medicine are to contain jing. Jing is the essence that when jing runs out, you're dead. So therefore, this is very essential to care and protect. So actually, there's a kind of feeling, and there's that point, Mingmen is also a acupressure point. We continuously keep contact with that. Also, that is why they keep contact with the back of the kimono in Japan. It's very important. Keeping this mindset actually is a very important awareness that we need in Aikido to have our energy going both ways, balanced. And if you have trouble sleeping, if you're laying on your back and you focus into that Mingmen, that point, and kind of most people's lumbar spine is very weak. Most people don't have any strength in this part of their body, especially in the West, because we don't usually use it or pay attention to it. But as you notice in Aikido, this becomes stronger. And also many Aikido people, they talk about the power in being able to move your hips, but also being able to be mindful of those points so that we can be able to, as Ueshiba Sensei and many other masters have talked about, be able to express and balance ourselves, connect with earth. So this particular, they call the chakra. That is the earth chakra. And then as you go up the 3 kind of tantien or 3 tanden, the next is where the heart is. And then the final one is up here, where the head is through the third eye. So some of you may see in the Shugendo, we wear the little hat, kind of token. The strings come along this line because it is a meridian. Also, the kesa that we wear holds this point as well. So we're able to move our attention to these different points of the body, which in Budo, as we know, allows us to generate some power, or how do you say, balance, because there's power is not something that we're generating, we're finding power in balance. So therefore, most of the preparatory exercises of Aikido were so important, but people overlook them. Like another one, for instance, everyone sees this, right? In a lot of dojo. But most people don't understand what they're doing. Actually, this is an old tradition to activate the meridian, because there is another meridian called a hegu here, which many people know. If you have a headache or anything, you can press there. But actually, they are awakening these meridians, which is what Aiki is supposed to do. Aiki is supposed to, when you finish Aikido, you should feel more positive, more balanced, more, how do you say, a kind of balanced energy. So not too excited, but not too relaxed, just as we were doing in the meditation type breathing. So we didn't get to the suburi and that, but I wanted to share this information because this is something that I've been studying quite a bit, because a lot of times we take Aikido as just a form, but actually Aikido is much deeper and such a wonderful system and teaching that we have lots to investigate. So it's exactly 9:15. So thank you very much, Sensei, for allowing me to share it today. And thank you very much, everyone.
Kanjin Sensei, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and information with us in the traditions. I find it really, really interesting and important. And I look forward to training together some more. So thank you very much. We're going to